Maud and Sam, two good friends, run a failing diner business together, struggling financially and finding it difficult to keep up with the bills. That is until one day, strange entities with deep pockets from a parallel universe pay them a visit with only one problem, that they risk their lives with what comes with the strange entities. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and welcome to a story where the antagonist, the Shadowcatcher, is interested to catch anything but shadows for some reason, and you're gonna find out very soon what I mean by that. Keep in mind that there will be spoilers ahead in this video, and with that said, let's begin. Sam, a loyal employee working for Maud who owns a diner, voices her concerns about the multiple overdue bills and the debt the diner is in. Sam tries to reason with Maud and explain they need to think about something, that is, if they want the diner to keep running. Maud, on the other hand, seems relaxed and unbothered, even dimming the lights and washing her clothes in the diner's sinks in order to save energy. In a way, working against her own business, deterring customers from entering the diner. Just as Sam is becoming more frustrated with Maud disregarding the issues, a family of three enters the diner, introducing themselves as Mr. Shadow, Mrs. Shadow, and Little Shadow. Maud and Sam quickly realize why they are referred to as such, as they are actual shadows, not having any face or detail. Even for Maud and Sam being humanoid animals, they seem strange and rare, with Sam displaying her concerns that they don't even have faces. The Shadow family continues explaining that they are runaways from a desolate land full of people like themselves, a land where there is no light. They explain how they prefer this land or world where there is light, somewhere they prefer to be. There's only one problem, however, that they do not belong here, and an entity known as Shadowcatcher is responsible for making sure shadow people don't cross over to other lands. The Shadow family, knowing that the Shadowcatcher is on their tail, beg Maud and Sam to let them stay there, as it's their only chance to stay out of sight. The Shadowcatcher is an entity who visits a place and looks through the door, but if it doesn't find anyone, it quickly leaves. Sam, realizing how dangerous this could be, with themselves being at risk of being taken by the Shadowcatcher, warns Maud to reject the Shadow family, but Maud, being a warm and empathetic person, allows them to stay, asking Sam to take their orders. Not only did Shadow family put Maud and Sam in danger, but they also explain they have a tradition which stops them from naming their orders directly, only giving hints to what they want for the waiters to guess what it is. At each playthrough, their orders change, making it difficult for Sam to keep up, and the Shadowcatcher comes into the diner in short intervals, forcing both Sam and Maud to work under pressure and quickly hide, being out of clear sight to avoid the Shadowcatcher from kidnapping them. Despite the Shadowcatcher's main duty being to catch the shadows that broke the rules and crossed over, it seems to be blind to the shadows, as when it enters the premises, it doesn't seem to see the Shadow family sitting on a booth. The only people it sees seems to be Maud and Sam. Shadowcatcher is whether blind to shadow people or just really bad at his job. Paying close attention to the Shadow family orders, Sam and Maud manage to serve them correctly, which makes them extremely happy, who tip them a total of $666, complimenting the food and how nicely they were prepared. Being very happy with the diner and what a wonderful night they had, they inform them that they will be back tomorrow night, being keen to try different meals. Sam, not believing how much they got tipped, despite the hassle she had to go through, becomes very happy and tries to share her excitement with Maud, who still seems to be up in the clouds, not paying much attention to what Sam is saying. Seemingly Sam only worrying about everything, their financial problems, and even their safety. As the next night begins, Sam removes one of the overdue bills, displaying how they managed to pay off one major debt, having only two left. The Shadow folk soon appear, demanding another great night with delicious food. They take a seat on their booth, with Sam and Maud getting back to work, staying out of sight while working hard to satisfy their favorite customers, or in other words, generous, rich customers who love to tip them exactly $666 for some reason. Probably nothing to do with the devil. Just as preparing food, Maud talks with Sam in private and displays how much she actually appreciates Sam for helping her out and how she wouldn't be able to do any of this alone, showing how she doesn't in fact have her head in the clouds, but maybe due to the severe stress, she prefers not to overthink about her problems, as she might have already done so for many years and just troubled herself rather than being any help. Maud and Sam work hard, staying out of sight from the menacing Shadowcatcher, who managed to get $666 in tips alone, paying off all of their overdue bills just in 2 nights. As next day begins, Sam commends Maud and explains how they managed to turn the place around, being very happy with their new customers with a lot of money. Sam is so happy that she finally accepts Maud's coffee, who kept persisting on her having a cup. The Shadow family returns for the 3rd night when they inform Maud and Sam that this is going to be their final night in town, and they decided to spend it in their favorite diner. The Shadow family informs Maud and Sam that the Shadowcatcher is starting to become restless, and as a result trying new ways of catching them, which is quickly proved to be the case when it appears through shadows in the kitchen, with Maud and Sam narrowly managing to stay hidden and save themselves. Starting to question if money is worth risking their lives, Sam and Maud push through, as they can turn the diner around and stay debt-free for some time at least. That is, if they manage to survive this last night. Managing to serve the Shadow family and staying out of the sight from the sinister Shadowcatcher, the family becomes happy as usual with satisfaction on their faces, thanking Maud and Sam for their delicious food and explaining that this would be their final night as it's become extremely dangerous for them to stay. They bid them farewell and get on their way to go back to their world. As they leave, Maud manages to keep running their diner thanks to the generosity of the Shadow family and their big, massive, enormous pockets. Sam, being a loyal and hardworking friend, sticks around for Maud and helps her run her business. Getting a taste for the good money and the deep pockets of the Shadow family, they hope to see them return, but they don't until one day that they come back, surprising Maud and Sam. They explain the food was so irresistible that they couldn't help themselves but return for more. But it doesn't end there. As they explain, they brought a large number of shadow folks with them as well, filling up the pockets of Maud and Sam. And lucky for them, they wouldn't have to worry about the Shadowcatcher anymore, as he quits his job of being a Shadowcatcher and joins the diner working for Maud as a waiter, explaining he much rather work for Maud anyway, as, let's face it, he was pretty bad at catching shadows. This helps Maud return to her glory days of having a busy diner, but this time exclusively serving shadow folks and getting a much higher pay than before, becoming super rich on the shadow folks, not even needing to worry about money anymore. In an alternate ending, if Maud and Sam fail to serve the Shadow family correctly and mix up their orders, they leave after the 3rd night, never to return ever again. This leads to Maud and Sam struggle with finances again over time, with overdue bills gathering and putting them under pressure. Nonetheless, they still stick together through it all, supporting each other and despite all difficulties, being happy with where they are. If only they could serve the rich shadow folks correctly, they would have been on a much different situation. Alternatively, if Maud stays in line of the sight of the Shadowcatcher, he quickly rushes towards her and takes her with him, with Maud never to be seen ever again, possibly gone to the Shadow Realm prison. This causes Sam to have a nervous breakdown and blame herself for not speaking out and preventing the Shadow family from entering the diner. Having to live with the overwhelming guilt, she tries to run the diner on her own with not much success. Heartbroken and financially struggling, Sam leaves the town in search of a new job, never looking back at her past life. As the final ending, on the other hand, if Sam gets abducted by the Shadowcatcher by staying in the line of his sight, Maud becomes heartbroken and unable to cope losing her best friend. As who would be there better than Sam to annoy with asking repeatedly if they want coffee? Maud blames herself forever until she dies for losing her best friend, all because of her insistence of letting the strange out-of-this-world shadow folks enter the diner to be served, entities that Sam wanted to turn away. This causes Maud to struggle running her diner, which leads to her losing it in debt and having a lonely, sad life. In financial problems, blaming herself forever for what she had done. And that's it for this video, folks. I truly hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, you can stay tuned by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host R, as always, and I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day.